United across the political divide, the Prime Minister, Labour leader and other MPs come together to honour Sir David Amess at the church where he was killed.
David himself, man of the people, he was killed doing a job that he loved, serving his own constituents.
ITV News understands the name police have for the suspect is Holby Ali, and he has been re-arrested tonight under anti-terror laws. Meanwhile, MP security is being urgently reviewed after 2 are murdered in 5 years.
We can't simply say it's business as usual and the murder of an MP is just the price of a democracy.
This is ITV News with Duncan Golestani.
Good evening. Boris Johnson and Sir Keir Starmer are rarely in agreement across the dispatch box in the House of Commons, but today they stood shoulder to shoulder in unity to honour Sir David Amess, the MP killed in a terror attack. The man arrested on suspicion of his murder yesterday has tonight been re-arrested under anti-terror laws. ITV News understands the name police have for the suspect is Holby Ali. Police say their investigation is fast-paced and tonight revealed the murder weapon has been recovered and 3 addresses in London have been searched. We'll have more on the investigation in a moment, but first Geraint Vincent reports from Leigh-on-Sea, where residents shared their shock and their gratitude to their long-serving MP.
Behind the police cordon, into the autumn sunshine, political divisions fell away. The Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition walked side by side to the murder scene. They left their tributes there, as did the Home Secretary, in memory of a colleague and a friend.
When we think of David himself, man of the people, he was killed doing a job that he loved, serving his own constituents as an elected democratic member. And of course, acts of this are absolutely wrong, and we cannot let that get in the way of our functioning democracy.
Police think that Sir David's killing was linked to Islamist extremism, and counter-terrorism officers are still questioning a 25-year-old man on suspicion of murder. But in the constituency of Southend East, they were mourning the loss of an MP who entered Parliament when he was 31 and spent the rest of his life in public service.
It's going to be a long process. It's not going to end today or next week. We'll be grieving for a long time.
Well, you're clearly very upset. You've lost somebody who's very important to you.
Well, yeah, he's a friend, a neighbour. He'd always turn up at Christmas with chocolates for our kids. And it's just the small things, really. You just expect those to carry on.
Sir David built relationships across his constituency. Some years ago, he opened a new Bex at the place where he died.
He is very easily reachable person. Whenever we wrote any letter to him, immediately he used to respond and try to help and support. Because of that, all members of Muslim community in South, and they're very shocked, and he will be greatly missed.
On the playing fields, near the church where David Amess met his constituents for the last time, some of them gathered tonight to remember him. Candles were lit and tears were shed. If this MP's death was an attack on our democracy, then one of its brightest lights has gone out. Geraint Vincent, ITV News, Leigh-on-Sea.
Tonight, ITV News has learned the name police have for the man suspected of killing Sir David Amess. Our global security editor, Rohit Katru, is here. Rohit, what more do we know about the investigation tonight?
Well, what we're being told by a Whitehall source is that the man who has been detained and who is being questioned now for a second night is Holby Ali, who's 25 years old. He's a British citizen of Somali heritage. Late last night, police declared this a terrorist incident. 12 hours into the investigation, they linked the suspect to potential motive of Islamist extremism, in part because of developments that happened after his arrest. Now, eyewitnesses say the suspect actually made no attempt to leave the scene once police arrested him. And a second development tonight, the suspect has been re-arrested under the Terrorism Act. That means he's essentially now accused directly of being a terrorist. It also means that the police have until next Friday to detain him. They say also that 3 addresses are being searched. They say too that they're not looking for anyone else. So there is no suspicion that there is a broader network, a broader group involved in what happened yesterday.
OK, Rohit, thank you very much. ITV News understands that Labour and the Liberal Democrats will not be standing candidates in the by-election to find a successor to Sir David Amess in Southend West. The Conservatives stood aside in the by-election that followed the murder of Joe Cox in 2016, and senior Labour and Lib Dem sources have told us they now plan to do the same. Whoever succeeds Sir David will have a hard act to follow. His constituents were full of praise for his community engagement today, including some who found themselves witnessing yesterday's tragedy and its aftermath. They've been speaking to Dan Rivers.
At Southend United today, there was unity in grief. This community is still digesting yesterday's traumatic events. Today's match starting with a tribute to Sir David Amess. Near the church where he was stabbed multiple times, those whose lives he touched continue to arrive to pay their respects.
We feel like we've not only lost our MP, but we've lost a friend.
Among those who were the last to see Sir David at the constituency surgery where he died was Leah Pepper.
It just didn't seem real. Even now I keep replaying it in my head, and yeah, it's devastating.
And looking back on it now, how are you feeling about what went on?
I keep more thinking about how he was when the man came in and the girls that were there with him. How awful that must have been.
This great guy here, this man who's become a member of our own family.
Father Jeff Woolnough was today leading services remembering his friend, Sir David. He was on the scene just minutes after the attack.
I dashed up there because wondering if they would need a priest, because Sir David is Catholic and it would normally be our tradition to give the last rites to the dying. At that point I didn't know what was going on, like everyone, but the police in their wisdom wouldn't allow me entry because this is a crime scene that's turned out to be terror related, so I do respect that and understand that.
They're mourning a man whose sense of fun shone through. A sentiment echoed in the gathering bouquets and messages from a community which still can't understand why anyone would want to harm such a well-loved and respected man. Dan Rivers, ITV News, Southend.
A review of all MP security has already begun tonight. Officers from Operation Bridger, set up after the murder of Joe Cox to provide extra security for MPs, have begun contacting every one of them. But already a wide range of MPs have said they must continue to meet their constituents for democracy to work. Our political correspondent David Wood reports.
Under armed guard and behind layers of security, Parliament is a fortress to keep MPs safe. But away from here, that protection disappears. For the Pudsey MP, though, today has been business as usual. Meeting constituents, he's determined not to let the killing of a colleague knock democracy off course.
Sir David, one of the things that he always talked about was being accessible is one of the great things about our democracy, and we have to do that. You know, I learn a lot from my constituents.
In Winchester, another MP, worried about his safety, says he needs to keep meeting voters.
You know, we cannot wrap ourselves in cotton wool and protect us completely. There is an element of risk to what we do. I just think what happened yesterday has brought that home.
Westminster's longest-serving female MP is calling for change. She wants a rare speakers' conference between politicians, the government and the police.
How you make sure that MPs have a good connection with their voters and their constituents that elect them, but also stay safe in doing their work, is something for MPs themselves, for Parliament as a whole. That's what we should do now. We can't simply say it's business as usual and the murder of an MP is just the price of a democracy.
Attacks on MPs are rare but not new. In 2000, Nigel Jones was stabbed meeting people in Cheltenham. His assistant was killed. So his successor had to boost security.
The way we designed the office, and particularly the area where I met constituents, was conscious of security, and so there was a table between myself and constituents. My caseworker and I had a side exit where we could get out very quickly.
On Monday, MPs returned to the protection of Parliament. They'll pay tribute to Sir David Amess and once again be forced to examine the brittle balance of being accessible and safe. David Wood, ITV News.
The Ministry of Defence says a soldier has died in a training exercise on Salisbury Plain. The 23-year-old was part of a crew operating an armoured vehicle yesterday. Wiltshire Police are now leading the investigation. Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe has lost her latest appeal in Iran, meaning she could be sent back to prison at any time, her MP has said. The British Iranian has been held there since 2016 after being accused of plotting to overthrow the government. And the UN has confirmed that it will not move ahead with making the former Health Secretary Matt Hancock a special envoy to Africa. There was criticism of his appointment, but he says it's fallen through because he wants to remain an MP. Finally, the man who masterminded the most incredible success in English football history with Leicester City returned to the Premier League today. Claudio Ranieri took charge of Watford for the first time, but there was no fairy tale start against Liverpool. They lost 5-0. Chris Scudder was watching.
5 years on from the miracle with Leicester, the odds were stacked against Ranieri here too, especially when his struggling Watford were unpicked first by Mane's 100th Premier League goal.
That is outstanding.
And then Roberto Firmino's simple second.
Tap in Firmino, 2-0.
Another miracle required. But none was forthcoming. Watford were woeful and Firmino helped himself again. Liverpool were almost doing it with their eyes closed. Then something miraculous from probably the best player in the world right now, Mo Salah.
Oh, what about that? Oh, my word!
A goal that'll be played and played again, arguably even better than his solo goal against Man City last time out.
It's a goal that you struggle to take in.
A hat-trick would normally grab the headlines, but Firmino's third played second fiddle to Salah. How Ranieri will be glad this lot don't come around every week. Chris Scudder, ITV News.
And that is it. The weather forecast is next, but from all of us here on the Weekend News team, thank you for watching and good night.